I think it's safe to say that anyone that plays games has an old-time classic that they have fond memories of. For some, it was the multiplayer. Coming home and playing with friends after a long day at school.
Stop! We know this way is safe. Never mind! Never mind! What? I came from there!
And for others, it could have been a hard-hitting and engaging story that kept you glued to the screen. Hell, even maybe just some really addicting and fun gameplay. But once in a while, a beloved classic slips through the cracks of time, only to be forgotten. One such game that I wanted to put back onto its pedestal and remind people about is none other than Red Faction Gureilla. Essentially, Red Faction Gureilla can be described as your virtual stress ball. I say this because I have absolutely zero recollection of the story in the game, like at all. That might just be because the last time I played this game was an entire decade ago and my little, still-forming brain had trouble comprehending even the simplest of storylines. Unironically, I think that my dumbass struggled to comprehend the plotline to Iron Man, the Marvel movie. Genuinely, I used to be more brain dead than the average YouTube Shorts consumer. Oh shit, right, virtual stress ball. Basically, from the ground up, the game was designed to be fun to play, bearing a close resemblance to the Just Cause games when it comes to the main selling point. Of course, destruction.
Yeah, you just can.
Hurry up, Alex.
Oh shit! Okay.
What the hell is going on? Who's the girl?
Oh shit!
You know
The Just Cause games had an intense focus on
Explosions and rockets and big booms and flying around!
Red Faction had a very similar appeal to the Just Cause games, and to put it simply, it's like Just Cause 2, but for the kids that would play with toy bulldozers in the sandpit. In other words, buildings falling constantly. Don't get me wrong, Red Faction Guerilla still has its fair share of ye old powder keg boom, but its entirely destructible buildings just steal the show away. It genuinely would not surprise me if there was an entire-ass generation of people out there that went into the demolitions industry from the destruction in Just Cause 2 and Red Faction Guerilla. In fact, it's such a core element of the gameplay that the currency used in the game to upgrade your arsenal is produced by breaking shit and demolishing buildings.
And we can just break the car into pieces. Oh yeah.
Now, as fun as it is to just walk around and blow stuff up, it needs to be said that the storyline isn't exactly the greatest. For example, your brother that meets you at the start of the game is literally only alive for about 2 or 3 minutes before he gets absolutely obliterated.
Run! Holy shit, alright.
And somehow that's supposed to be enough attachment to the player to justify joining the Red Faction and go on this massive rampage. Oh yeah, while I'm at it, he doesn't even really join the Red Faction. It's more like these dinguses really just wanted to shoot him and labeled him as Red Faction, so he kinda doesn't have a choice in the matter. Oddly enough though, I can't remember hearing any complaints from him about this, so yeah, the early impressions of the story are kinda weak, and expect the storyline to keep your socks on. The one good thing that I can say about this is the fact that the developers kinda knew the story was gonna turn out to be a bit rubbish, so they didn't really take it all too seriously. Like, for example, in the tutorial, you can just kill your brother.
Oh my fucking god! Oh my god! Okay! Oh my god!
Don't ask me why I tried to do this. Once you beat the tutorial, Red Faction Guerilla really puts you down into the open world super fast. Like, it just shits you down and essentially refuses to give you any guidance from here on out. Which is a very nice change of pace when you compare it to modern day games that literally teach you how to press any button on your keyboard that does a single thing and will force you to do it 7 times in a row just to make sure that it's burnt into your already destroyed short-term memory. Sure, it occasionally shows you some controls here and there with a little pop-up for the first time you do something major, but even then it's more of a learn as you go kind of thing. Something that I noticed when jumping straight in was that this game doesn't actually look too bad. Admittedly, I am playing on the 2019 re-mars-tered edition, but even still, with games this old, it can be hard to give them a fresh breath of life when it comes to the visuals. The graphics might not be tricking anyone into thinking that it's a modern AAA game, but even still, you gotta give credit where credit's due. I mean, the art and modeling teams absolutely do deserve a little bit of credit here. Now, of course, blowing up buildings isn't the only thing that you can do in this game. Sure, it might be the method of approach, the goal, and the problem for basically any scenario in the game, but what third-person shooter is complete without its fair share of combat? There are a few different weapons in the game, but realistically, we can skip most of the generic ones like small gun, medium gun, and boom gun. Instead, let's focus on the two more interesting weapons you get towards the start of the game. The explosive charge, borrowed straight from Just Cause 2, and your sweet baby boy, the hammer.
Fuck it! Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh! He's fucked! He's dead! Yes! Killing spree! Oh, you're a dude!
As you may have seen, this little thing packs probably the most punch out of every weapon in the game, except for this thing, being able to basically one-hit anything outside of vehicles. Humans get catapulted to space like they're on 200% in Smash Bros. Buildings get chunks ripped straight out of them, and if the ground was destructible, by God, this thing would split Mars in two. There's a whole variety of new and interesting weapons that you can use as well that aren't just copy and pasted from other games. For example, the Nano Rifle, a gun that shoots a swarm of nanites that devour anything and everything faster than Badlands chugs can down a whole nation's water supply. Other than that, you can electrocute people, chuck some saws at them, and if you get lucky enough to find these things out in the wild... Of course, the weapons that you have are made to be used against enemies. But who? Well, I mean, of course it's these guys, the EDF, but what exactly are they? Well, there are a few different types of EDF to face off against, but they're all pretty much the same. There are dudes with rifles, a different kind of rifle, turns out this one auto-aims, and shotguns. In general, the more armor that they look like they're wearing, the more health they have. There's also these dudes with shields, but they come into the game pretty late, and the shields don't really change much in terms of your approach to them. There's also the flying gunship thing that shoots at you, but look, there's not a whole lot to these guys, okay? Pretty standard weapons, slightly interesting designs, and the vehicles are generic. But the more interesting, and in my opinion, underutilized enemies are the Marauders, who, without any spoilers, only show up on odd occasion to cause mayhem, and that's about it. While they are plot relevant towards the end of the game, you only fight against them a few times, and for only being able to fight them a few times, they have some very interesting and unique designs and weapons, feeling like that they've been ripped straight from Mad Max Fury Road with a bit of the Halo Brute vehicle aesthetic. And as much as I wish that they did name these vehicles in the game, I can't really blame them because God knows what I would call a 3-wheel, 2-car wide skeleton with a side-mounted turret. But for real though, these guys have some pretty cool pointy sticks, some pretty cool projectile sticks, also known as guns, and some cool looking vehicles. Continuing on from the Marauders vehicles, the vehicles in the game are more or less business as usual with one exception, the Walkers. These things are by far one of the coolest things throughout the game. A little clunky to use, but still so insanely cool. These things are delicately and meticulously placed throughout the game at just the right time and in just the right quantity to be perfection. Not so much that it becomes normal or you start to get annoyed at how clunky they are, but also not just a once-off that feels random and out of place in comparison to the rest of the game. They're infrequent, but when they show up, it's like there's this little tingle in your brain and a small voice in the back that whispers to you, "Oh, it's time." Okay, by this stage, you more or less get what I'm talking about. Story, kind of meh, character development is close to non-existent, but the destruction and fun is there. Cool. So, what do you actually do? Well, you see, the map is divided into 6 sections, and in order to progress the game, you need to liberate all of them. To do this, you need to lower the control of the EDF in the region by doing one of 3 things on the map. These blue icons are destruction targets, and are places where the EDF would canonically take control from. In other words, destroy the building while bad guys run at you. These green things are guerrilla actions, and can lower the control, increase morale, which I'm gonna be honest, I still don't really know what it does, and of course, can give you some salvage. Finally, there are also these red things which will absolutely terrify anybody 100%ing Just Cause 2 because they don't appear on the map, but still reduce the control in the area if you take them down. Once you get control down to 0, bada bing bada boom, you've unlocked that zone's final story mission. Just do that and hey presto, the region is liberated from the EDF, moving on to the next one. As you might imagine, what? As you might imagine, with the vastly limited number of enemy types, this can get pretty tedious pretty quickly. This is one of the biggest drawbacks preventing this game from being amazing in my opinion. If only it had a few more enemy variants that you don't eliminate just by abusing the same pattern of stealthing, running at them with a hammer, and swinging harder than a coked up Mike Tyson, it could have been an awesome game to play. In the end, looking back at some of the reviews that the game got, it's really difficult to disagree with an 8 out of 10. It's just a fun game, nothing exceptional, not bad, but it's a fun game with a very fun destruction mechanic. Here's the real question though that I bet that you're wondering. Should you play it? Probably? I don't know, I'm not going to recommend it as hard as some of the other Yakuza games that I've been talking about, but at the same time, it's worth a shot, I guess. With how old it is, you can definitely see it going on sale pretty frequently, so my recommendation would be to wait until there's a nice little sale going on and pick it up for bargain bin price. Because let's be completely honest, with a story of this quality, I cannot justify spending, $30 on this game? And if you've already got the game, then, I mean, hell, just go back and have a second playthrough. It's probably worth a little bit of a refresher anyway, just to look back on, some of the good games back in the old days. Oh, I'm getting old.